The first time that announcements gets claps. You guys don't do that for me.
That's you!
Hey, what's up, guys? Before I started off today, I wanted to play you guys a little bit of a sound clip from one of my favorite movies. I'm pretty sure you guys know it, but I wanted you guys to just take a listen to it real fast.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. The greatest trick.
Alright, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was making the world believe that he didn't exist. Let's think about that for a little bit. The devil and his army, now, there's no question if we believe it, right? Now, if somebody says they don't believe in the devil existing, maybe crazy, whatnot, but I guess the real question isn't if all of us here believe that the devil exists. I think the real question is to what extent. Okay, because everyone believes in the devil, but I don't think we take him seriously enough. Okay, we give too much credit to chance, to life, things that's happening, but we don't give enough credit to God or the devil and how much of an impact they have in our daily lives. So today we're actually going to cover why this is important, how the enemy works, and how powerful the enemy really is. Okay, why it's important, how he works, and how powerful he is. Now the enemy, this is really important to know, I guess, to what extent the devil can or cannot do and how he gets to us, because we're at war. We're in a spiritual war, but most of us don't know it or realize the importance of it. Okay. Now the enemy knows this. The enemy knows that we're at war, so he plans, he calculates, he plots, he schemes. Okay. Now when somebody's out to get you and they're planning, but we're not ready for it, when something happens, all we can do really is to react. Okay, and that's why we fall into sin. That's why we can't give up our old lifestyle and fill in the blank. That's why we can't give up. Okay, the enemy is tricky, they're cunning, and they're very deceptive. Okay. Ephesians 6:11 says, "Put on the full armor of God, so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes." So that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. Okay, there is our warning right there in the Bible. Okay, the devil's schemes. He's not all powerful. He has to plan out to try to dupe you into certain things. Okay. Now, a lot of the reason why we don't take the devil seriously is because we focus so much on the physical world, on what we see, what we hear, what we taste, feel, what's going on around us. Okay. We're not focusing enough on the spiritual world. Okay. The spiritual world, our spiritual being, us as humans, as animals, we are, or not as animals, but we're different than other animals because we have this spiritual side to us. Okay, we're two parts. We're not just one day alive, one day dead. Because even if we die, we're going to be, even in eternity, existing in a spiritual being. Okay, we need to focus on our spiritual self, on what's going on the inside. Okay, we need to stop worrying so much about what we can only see, and start focusing our thoughts inwards. Okay. Now, by doing this, we can start fighting in this war that we are in by controlling our thoughts, which will lead to our choices, which will lead to our actions. Okay. We need to start, I guess, fighting this war, thinking about what's going on inside by focusing our thoughts, or focusing on or controlling our thoughts, which lead to our choices, which lead to our actions. Right now we have it backwards. Backwards. Right now we just act. We don't think about it, which then led to, well, that was a choice that you made when you acted on something, which then led to a thought, which leads to feelings of guilt, which leads to all these different things. Then it's just another vicious cycle all over again. For example, you have sex just because you want to. Leads to a bad feeling, leads us further from God, dwelling on the sin, guilt, all these different things. Your actions just cause a choice, which then causes thought. Drugs, you are in la la land, whatever feeling. leading us further from God, escaping not of the right state of mind, getting drunk. I mean, name your blank sin. Okay, it's just an action that we decided to do. We don't actually even think about it, really. We just, it just kind of happened, you know. Now we need to start thinking not just about what's going on around us, but really inside. Okay, Ephesians 6:12. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. This focus is now on how the battle is against the spiritual being, the spiritual world, not against flesh and blood. It's not about, it's not about trying to fight physically with demons. It's not about, how to not do this action, because, that's just a result of your thoughts. So we need to start focusing on how we work on the inside. Now, the enemy knows this. The enemy knows how humans work, how our brain works, how our thought processes work. So they have this really, really well set. They're smart. Okay? They've been around since forever. Okay? What the enemy, what they will not do, they will not do a direct frontal attack. They're not going to make it obvious. They're not going to do a direct anti-God, nothing obvious. They're not going to, devil worshiping, killing babies, That's just so like, oh my gosh, I would never do that. That's not the purpose. What the enemy wants to do is psych you up to cause you to, time and time again, fall. Okay? But what they will do, the enemy will get to you with half-truths, outright lies, falsehoods disguised as truths. They're going to plant seeds into your mind. They're going to make you believe sin is even right, that it feels good. And they're going to package it so nicely. The enemy is tricky. They're cunning, they're deceptive, they're very, very smart. Okay? But they don't have control over you. They're not all powerful like God is. Let's look at an example, a historical account. Everybody knows the story of Adam and Eve. I think everybody knows the story of Adam and Eve. Basic outline, I guess, a simple way to look at it, there's two ways. The simple way to look at it, Satan tricks Eve, Eve then dupes Adam, they both fall into sin, and then we are in this crappy world that we live in now because of Adam and Eve. Boo-hoo. Now, let's go a little bit more in depth. Okay, it's not as simple as that. Okay, Satan first started by planting an idea into Eve. Okay, let's look at Genesis 3:1. He, being the devil, said to the woman, "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" Idea, a thought. He makes Eve question God's motive. He makes her question God. The downfall is that Eve even began to listen to Satan. Going on, verse 2 continues, the woman, everybody knew that, God told me not to eat from this one tree. So the woman replies and said to the serpent, "We may eat from the trees in the garden, but God did say, you must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die." Well, the devil replies, "You will not certainly die," the serpent said to the woman, "for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be open, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." An idea, a thought, that's all it was. He didn't hand the apple to her, he didn't make her eat it. All he did was plant an idea, leading her to question God. Eat from the tree, be like God. Hey, I want to be like God. Like, he's pretty cool. Which then led to her action, which then defined all of human history. An idea, a simple idea can change so much about your life. The enemy, Satan, is tricky, they're cunning, they're deceptive. So we have to be careful. Now, this happens, things like this happen every day. Simple little thoughts. For example, at home, you're innocently checking your email, checking Facebook, browsing the web, whatever. And then we see something, a thought. this website looks harmless enough. Then we dwell on it. We act on our thoughts, causing guilt, the inability to even fight in the war, the inability to love each other because of sin. The lie is, it's not bad to just look, but then you end up dwelling. You end up focusing on the thought causes you to sin. If you guys don't get it, it's talking about pornography. Alright, another example, you're relaxing at home with the girls, watching the newest episode of The Hills, reading Us magazine, seeing this skinny, beautiful model talking to you girls now. The thought, I wish I could look like that. Destroys your self-esteem, destroys your confidence. You focus on you now, affecting your ability to focus on others, to love others. A thought, just with an image. The lie is, you are not beautiful the way God created you. So you focus on yourself more and more, ultimately destroying your self-esteem, your confidence, etc., etc. Material things, another good example that the devil has taken a hold of in the US, a thought causing you to work hard over time, focusing on money, relationships, not life. Material things, I want that. Hey, it must be nice to live in this 16-bedroom house. Well, I want that nice car, or hey, how about that new watch? The lie is that God will not or cannot take care of you financially, so you need to take care of yourself. That God's not going to give you the things that you need. Pushing to work hard to the next level, to get up the corporate ladder, destroying your relationships. You focus so much on work rather than what the work is supposed to get you. Another good example, sex. You've been dating for a few months, even maybe a few years. You love them. You're going to get married anyways. God created sex, it can't be wrong, it feels so good. I thought, God created sex, it can't be bad. It just feels right. I love him, I love her. Destroying the value of one of the greatest gifts that God ever gave us, sex. The lie is, it's okay as long as it feels right, as long as it feels good. God wouldn't have created it if he didn't want to do it. Yeah. The enemy is tricky, they're cunning, they're deceptive. A couple of these examples went over in the US how the devil has a foothold on sex, on money, on selfishness and greed, on sex. Went over sex twice because it's that much more important, I felt. Now, all of this affects our relationship. It affects negatively our ability to love each other. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. Okay, Satan doesn't want to kill you. He actually wants to keep you alive. He wants us to cannibalize from the inside out. Okay, he wants you to be further and further from God. That's the only way that the devil can really hurt God, is to drive us further from him. Now, the enemy, what can he do? How powerful is the devil really? I mean, they're pretty buff, but they can plant ideas. Okay, they can cause physical damage. Yes, they can actually cause physical damage, but rarely, I think, they'll actually act upon that. They can affect weather. They can distract you. Okay, they can plan out things. They don't just do blah. Okay, they can plan. They can group together. They can organize. Okay, we see accounts of this repeatedly in the Bible. Okay, but they are not all powerful. They can't control you. They can't control your thoughts. They can't kill you. Okay, they are not all powerful. They're tricky, cunning, and deceptive. But we can still win. We can fight back. Now, the enemy's smart. They're strong. They've been around since pretty much the beginning of time, and they've been trying to bring us down, okay, take us further away from God ever since the beginning of time. But they have limited control and power in this world. Okay? Be aware of some of the things that happen to us on an everyday basis, on a weekly basis. Bad day at work, affecting your thoughts. Those websites that says, oh, accidentally popped up. That car that cuts us off. Friends asking us to go out and do things. Drinking, clubbing, drugs, sex, whatever. Images that bombard you on TV, on supermarkets, magazines, etc., etc. The list goes on. There's so many things that just happen. But are these things just happening? Or are these things part of the enemy's ploy to bring you down and ultimately bring you or take you further away from God? Okay? We can't control what goes on around us, but we can control our thoughts. So now that we know a little bit about how the enemy works, what he can or cannot do, let's be mindful of that this week. Let's try to not just let life happen, but really be mindful of, well, is this thing happening for a reason, whether it's good or bad? And let's see and think, is this going to bring me closer to God? Or is this going to take me away from God? Now, we're going to go over a couple other things, or Pastor Sam is next week, about how to effectively fight against it. But for this week at least, let's just focus on the things that go around us, okay? The negative things and the good things, and try to think, is this happening for a reason? Okay? Let me pray for us. God, there is an enemy out there that wants to bring us down. I think you know that. But at the same time, I know that we can be aware of what they're trying to do and effectively fight against it. So God, this week, when we're just living our life, instead of just being taken for a ride, would you open our eyes so that we can see the things that go around us and be aware if that's part of the enemy's plans to take us further away from you, or if it's going to affect our ability to love each other. So I ask for your help in all of our lives. And also, God, I want to just thank you that our women again prepare food, even if we are half of them down. Would you bless our meal that we can, have a time of fellowship, that we can encourage each other and love each other during this time. Just going to pray.